My father, Charles Vallow, cared for his family. He took care of our family, and he made sure we had a good life. In January 2019, I was told by my mother, Lori Vallow, that my father had been unfaithful to her for years. I was just shocked by this news, and Lori's actions sold the story. I naively believed her and thought that my father betrayed my family. Little did I know it was my mother having the affair all along. She accused others of what she was doing herself. I regretfully decided to stop speaking to my father. On July 11th, 2019, I would be flooded by the reality that my choice not to speak to him would be a lifelong sorrow. What I lost on July 11, 2019 was a father who was trying to help me in life, and a man who wanted to see his grandchild, and someone who wanted to give guidance and love. I lost a father. This affected me in more ways than anyone could ever know. I have to live with the regret of not speaking to him before he was murdered in cold blood. This did not only affect me. My sister Tylee carried too much responsibility and was put in positions no child should ever have to be in. Part of that responsibility was being told to retrieve Lori's purse inside the house, possibly witnessing her father's body. That we know that my little sister Tylee only had 60 days before she would meet the same fate. My little sister must have been so scared, confused, anxious, and broken, and angry in every emotion you could think of. My little brother JJ would only have 74 days before he met the same fate. He must have been confused, worried, sad, and frustrated without the ability to fully comprehend his feelings. My father was gone in an instant, and later my sister and brother disappeared until they were later found in Lori Vallow's new husband's backyard. I had to do something I've never done, and that was fight to stay alive after the pain. There are no words for what I've experienced, and I had to choose to fight and to stay alive. For my children and for my wife. It must be a very sad life to smile your way through all the pain you've caused. Rather than being able to acknowledge the pain that she has caused, she would rather say that Charles, Tylee, and JJ's death were a family tragedy and not her evil doing. And I will say this, if you want to see darkness, look at the murdering cult that claims God has commissioned their mission to kill my family and others. Quite frankly, I believe that Lori Vallow herself is the family tragedy.
I truly wish I was there to look the murderers in the eyes. I'm unable to. I will say this. Murderers, you're nothing. You're a murderer. You're a narcissist, psychopath, delusional murder. The 4 murders that you're accused of are only ones that they can prove. Laura, you tried to kill me. I left your house in Hawaii. You tried to kill me going back home. But guess what? I beat you. I'm able to sit here and laugh at you and watch you go to prison. There's others you tried to kill. God bless JJ. God bless Tylee. And most of all, God bless our family.
Charles and I had just started renewing our relationship with each other. One day in 2019 at Kay's house, Charles said to me, "Come see, sis." So I went to see what he wanted. He said, "I'm going to give you a car." And I just about passed out. I told him, I said, "I love you, Charles." And he said, "I love you too, sis." And we hugged. And these were the last words we ever spoke to each other. Needless to say, because of your selfish, deliberate, and horrifying actions, this never happened. My brother's love, kindness, and generous nature knew no bounds, called by your evil, selfish, and reprehensible actions. You will miss out on wearing nice clothes, driving what was once your Range Rover, thick, juicy steaks, barbecues, and no more quiet. No more freedom. Only rules. I have forgiven you, Lord. When Jesus calls me home, I don't want any of this on my soul.
Uncle Charles was a man of God, love. He knew God because he loved everybody around him. I trusted y'all with my family, the only son I had, because I couldn't give him the life that y'all could give him. I gave him up for y'all to raise him. I deal with the regret. I've dealt with I've dealt with the torment of making that choice. I'm here today to forgive you. I know what it's like to be in prison. I was in prison when y'all got the rights to my son. I know what it's like. Once you get done with this court and you go sit in that cell, you got to relive everything that you did. I hope for you that you understand the truth of what God did on the cross.
Perhaps the most heartbreaking detail is the decision Charles made to try and make his marriage work. He truly believed in reconciliation, and he really loved Lori, his wife. And in a text to his attorney, Taylor, he wrote, quote, "What can I say, Taylor? Love always wins," unquote. These were the words of a man clinging to hope, a hope that ultimately led him to his death. He was a vulnerable and trusting child who relied on the adults in his life for love and protection. The betrayal of trust in his adoption and subsequent murder is a profound and lasting wound. She adopted him to get him out of a bad situation just to murder him? Lori Noreen Cox was an unloved daughter. She didn't even get her own name. She was never allowed to be herself, an individual with her own identity and her own life. She was always told she was someone else, living someone else's life. Her mother, in her grief over losing her infant daughter, convinced herself that Lolly's spirit came back to her in a new body. She convinced herself that she never lost Lolly, but that Lolly was so special she was allowed to come back to Earth again. And then she was convinced that she was Lolly. The reality is that Lolly was lost. The hard truth is that sometimes infants die. She was taught that she didn't matter. She was taught that she didn't deserve to have her own name, her own life, her own identity. She was devoured. Charles is not your husband. Your disgusting co-monster, Chad, is. The Miss Texas pageant, Wheel of Fortune, Extra on Modern Family, July 31st, 2023. What do they all have in common? They're all days that failed to make you famous or idolized. Infamous? Yes, but never famous, never idolized. You spent your entire life chasing cameras, applause, and validation like oxygen, but here you are, exposed, convicted, stripped of the lies you wrapped yourself in. All your interviews, all your attempts to manipulate, triangulate, and control the narrative, even the one released just last night, have failed. The world sees what I saw in 2019 when you abandoned Charles, Colby, Tylee, and JJ to chase that grotesque shadow of a man, Chad Daybell. You call yourself a mother, a wife, a woman of God. You are none of these things. You are a liar, a fraud, and a murderer. I cried all day and just kept saying, my dad's not dead, my dad's not dead, with tears rolling down my face. And I missed my dad. Now I had lost Bailey, my school. And now my dad wasn't just on a business trip anymore.
he was dead. Then within the next few days, it got worse. We moved. All of a sudden, I was at Colby's, my big brother's work, telling him goodbye. I couldn't go play with my cousins at Brandon's house anymore. Braxy and Bridie were taken away too. My aunts, uncles, brothers, grandparents, teachers, friends at school, my mama and papa, and Ashlyn, and everything that I knew was gone, all because my dad couldn't protect me anymore. He was my best friend. I loved my dad more than I can ever explain. Lori caused the next tragedy in my family too, the next domino to fall. There was one thing I had left, was my big sister Tylee. She murdered her too. She murdered her on September 8th of 2019, just 59 days after my dad was murdered. I am not a domino that fell in her life. I am Joshua Jackson Vallow. I am the son of Charles Vallow. I should be 13 years old now, but I'm forever 7. The impact of my father's death was my murder. And Judge, it is 13 years today that JJ's adoption was finalized, and they moved him immediately right away to Hawaii. And I hope you remember that. I trusted you!
Some didn't come home at all. Those men fought for something real, a country with laws that protect the innocent and punish the guilty. That's why I'm here to speak for Charles, my big brother, one of the innocents, because I still believe in that. And Lori shit on all of it. She doesn't deserve to breathe the air those men fought for. She doesn't deserve to sit and play victim when she is the reason we are all here. Never been a mission from God. She isn't an instrument in God's hands. She was sleeping with Chad Daybell behind Charles's back while planning his murder. You know what kind of instrument kills a father in cold blood, buries 2 kids in a pet cemetery, and lies through her teeth while doing it? Called a weapon. And God doesn't use weapons against innocence. She wasn't doing God's work. She was selfish, cruel, and calculated. God didn't send her to commit murder. She used his name to justify evil. That's not God's work. That's blasphemy, plain and simple. She didn't cry for Charles. She didn't mourn JJ or Tylee, no matter what she says. She erased them. And she didn't give a damn about Tammy. So when she sits there and pretends it's some kind of tragic twist of fate, like she didn't like the fuse, remember that. She didn't just kill Charles. She stole him from everyone who loved him, from his boys, from our family, from me. She didn't just break the law. She pissed all over it and tried to claim righteousness. Started this, she caused this. She wasn't caught in some domino effect. She pushed the first one and kept pushing till there was none left standing. She twisted everything, God, family, and loves. And if she thinks she can twist justice too, don't let her. Don't let her twist away from what she did. She murdered my brother Charles. Give her what she's earned.
We thank God every day that evil didn't succeed. As a family, we have mourned with all who have been affected by Lori's inexcusable acts. She is the author of heartache and sadness. Today, Lori will face the consequences for her part in hurting so many innocent people. During this period of time, we have feared for our physical safety. We've struggled with a myriad of emotions. The stress of being targeted and threatened takes a toll. There isn't a place in our society for Lori or her co-conspirators. Prison is where Lori belongs and where she should stay until she dies.
He was abandoned by his then wife, Melanie, in Utah, with his children at the end of June 2019, and forced to fly back to Arizona. I offered to help him and flew back to Arizona. When we arrived back at his home, we were both surprised to find his wife already home, having driven back to Utah after abandoning them all there. During that night, I helped the children get to bed and allowed my brother and his wife to try and talk and figure things out. Overhearing their conversations, I realized just how deeply involved Lori, Alex, and Chad were in the failure of my brother's marriage. The next morning, I was talking with Brandon, and he told me how happy he was that I was there because Melanie had called her Uncle Alex the night before. And Brandon had mentioned how he was really scared of Alex and that he was capable of killing someone and had tried before. At the time, I thought my brother was being a bit dramatic. But only a week later, I received the news that Alex had done just that, and he murdered Charles. This was the point where we started beginning to fear for our family's safety. A few months later, the thing my brother had feared the most happened. Alex had attempted to take his life on the orders of Lori. In that moment, our lives changed forever. We could no longer trust that we were safe. We always wondered if someone was coming for Brandon, not knowing just how far these people were willing to go. We were robbed of our sense of safety because of this. We all felt that we needed to get video cameras around our houses, obtain firearms to protect ourselves, and always be watching over our shoulders. As hard as it was for us as his family, I could see how hard it was for Brandon. He was forced to go into hiding, trying to keep his children and himself safe. The toll this took on him was immense. My once fun, energetic, optimistic brother was now a nervous, sad, distraught shell of a man. We are forced to have hard conversations with our young children, trying to explain why someone would want to kill their uncle. This has forced us all to watch as Brandon has had to share custody of his children with a woman we all know was involved in his attempted murder.
Nothing prepares you to hear your dad tell you that someone tried to shoot and kill your brother and that they missed him by inches. Our lives were completely changed after that day. I can still see him today. His face was so full of fear and shock. He couldn't comprehend what had happened to him. He feared for his life and for his children. Following months, my husband and I lived in constant worry and fear as we tried to help support Brandon and my nieces and nephews. During this time, my husband was called by my dad and asked to rush over to their house because there were people there that we were really scared of. I remember being terrified for my brother, my nieces and nephews, my parents, and my husband. During that time, we also lived in fear that someone could possibly show up at our house. We had my brother and my nieces and nephews at our house quite often, and we had to be so vigilant in being aware of our surroundings because we didn't know if people were going to show up, people that were trying to hurt my brother. The stress and fear greatly impacted my husband and I as we tried to appear normal for our own kids and for my nieces and nephews because we didn't want them to be worried.
Over the coming months, that fear and anxiety for his and their safety was a constant in my life. Being one of the few adults he felt safe leaving his kids with, I spent many hours taking care of my nieces and nephews. I purchased plane tickets and used personal days at work to be able to travel and help care for the kids. I was a kindergarten teacher at the time, and I spent time reading with my niece who was in kindergarten that year. I held my brother's kids close and I comforted them during times of uncertainty.
When I met Brandon, I saw a man with one of the biggest hearts I have ever known. But it was a heart that had been bruised deeply and wounded by betrayal from those he trusted most. To be hunted by people who were supposed to love and protect him. His own family left scars that go far beyond physical danger. It robbed him of a sense of safety. It shattered his ability to fully trust. It forced him to live in fear. The people who wanted him dead still were out there, and he knew they were not finished. After the horrifying news of the murders of Charles and Tammy, and especially Tylee and JJ, children he loved and he knew, Brandon had countless sleepless nights. The fear became constant. I will never forget the night when Alex and another showed up at his family home searching for his children and Brandon. The fear I heard in Brandon's voice was like nothing I had ever heard. He believed that he and his children could be killed. This was his new reality. These crimes weren't just about money or power or twisted religious beliefs. They were also about destroying families, destroying lives. Lori and her co-conspirators tried to take away a father, even on the first day of our honeymoon, which was meant to be joyful and sacred. I watched my new husband weep in a car after having to identify the remains of a boy he once loved and tried to protect. That boy was JJ, a cousin of Brandon's former wife, the son of the very woman who tried to orchestrate Brandon's murder. That weight, that moment is still and always will be heavy in our lives. He has survivor's guilt. He sometimes wondered why he survived and the others did not.
He reached out to see if he could bring his children to hide at our home for a while. There was no hesitation. We took them all in. But those few weeks were filled with terror. We stayed indoors with the blinds shut and the door securely locked. We did our best to entertain 6 children, ours and his, and keep them happy and as unaware of the situation as possible, while also monitoring our streets for any signs of those responsible for this. I no longer felt safe in my home. Leaving meant constantly checking behind and around me, making sure no one was following or watching us. We were on alert 24/7. Our entire family helped shuffle my incredible brother and his kids around, doing our best to ensure that they felt safe and were being loved and taken care of. I believe the family unit is ordained of God, and as such, it can be the most safe and sacred space we have in this life. I was raised in such a unit by parents who created this for me. And my life's greatest desire is that one day my children will look back and say that I created that for them. Besides my children, I have extended family for whom this conspiracy's toll I will never truly know. There's no measurement system for our grief, for our stress, for their pain and their trauma. They carry a burden that was no responsibility of their own. They're good people, all of them. But they showed up. They understood what family meant. They postponed work. They postponed life. They postponed fun. They even put out their own children and their own spouses. I had to ask them and their families to keep me safe and put them in jeopardy. I was scared to stay with them for months after they shot at me and kept trying to find me. I was continually pursued. When I asked my new wife to marry me, I had to do so, knowing the burden I brought to our marriage. A life filled with unwanted attention, trauma, from a conspiracy I knew nothing about until it was almost too late. We've spent countless hours and precious resources from our community's taxes, mine and my family's personal finances, striving to prove exactly what happened, and most importantly, to keep children safe. All of this could have gone to more productive and beneficial things to help others, but it had to be diverted because of selfishness and self-centered conspirations. Your Honor, I'm a believer in forgiveness, and I believe it can be relieving for people to let go of the feelings that I've been describing, to give them away to their Savior, so that there's more room for good feelings and things that can come in this life. I try to practice this. I'm not perfect at it, but I have found relief in it. But I do not believe that this means that we can trust those who commit crimes to continue to have freedom that they had before. I choose to forgive Lori for myself so that I can be able to be a better father to those children I described. Be a better husband for my new wife. A better son and brother to these wonderful people who came. And a better neighbor and friend to those people who were there for me when I needed it most. But I have never seen any remorse or acknowledgement from Lori or any of her conspirators. Only denial, shaming, and accusation. I would never feel safe if she has freedom. I will always fear her for what she would try to do, again, to hurt my family.
But one of the most disturbing parts of this case that gives so much weight to the aggravating factor of emotional harm and shows how callous, how self-centered, how uncaring, and how narcissistic this defendant is the text messages that she sent to Charles Vallow's sons, Zach and Cole, on July 12th, the day after Charles died. She let them know via a text message that their dad was dead. She wrote, quote, "Hi, boys. I have very sad news. Your dad passed away yesterday. I'm working on making arrangements, and I'll keep you informed with what's going on. I'm still not sure how to handle things. Just want you to know that I love you, and so did your dad." One of Charles's sons texted back, "Lori, what happened?" Lori Vallow knew that Alex Cox had shot and killed Charles, but instead of being honest or caring about his sons, she lied and told them, "We are still waiting on the ME report. I'll let you know more when I can." Charles's sons texted again and again, and at one point, one of them indicated, "You can't just tell us Dad died and disappear." On July 15th, one of Charles's sons texted Lori and said, quote, "Okay, Lori, it's been 3 days. You let us know our father passed away over a text message. 3 days and we haven't heard from anyone. The only information we have is the one text from you saying he passed away. You disappeared after that. We need any information you have. What happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? Where is he now? Are there any funeral plans? We talked to him all the time, and now he's gone. He was our dad, and we loved him very much. We deserve answers." Lori Vallow Daybell never answered their questions about what happened to their dad. Instead, she lied to them and said she was planning to cremate Charles and take all of them to Hawaii to spread his ashes. Instead, this defendant FedExed Charles's ashes to Louisiana and took Chad Daybell to Hawaii.
Your cases involved 24 separate jurors who deliberated and reached verdicts on these two cases. They represent a broad cross-section of society which means these two verdicts represent the decisions of our community, not the view of a single person, not the view of a single prosecutor, and not the view of a judge. The collective decision-making of juries helps to reduce individual biases and errors in judgment. 12 jurors in the first case unanimously agreed that proof beyond a reasonable doubt established you conspired to kill Charles Vallow. And 12 separate jurors in the second case, again with no prior knowledge of you whatsoever, no knowledge of your notoriety, unanimously agreed you conspired to have Brandon Boudreaux killed. Many people have asked why the state bothered to extradite you and bring you to Arizona, given the sentences that you received in Idaho. Trials are not just about seeking accountability or punishment from those who have committed crimes, but to give the victims of crimes justice and acknowledgement of the impact of being a victim. Justice demands not only recognition of the pain inflicted, but a firm response that upholds the dignity of every victim harmed by the actions of someone who has shown blatant disregard for humanity. You've left a wake of destruction stretching from Louisiana, across Texas, Arizona, up to Idaho and back again. Anytime a person victimizes a single individual, the ripple effects of their actions extend far beyond the immediate harm. You suffer from survivor's guilt, and she confirmed that for me today. I also remember looking at you in the back of the courtroom trial and just, you have this look about you of a wounded individual. I hope you can heal someday. To Charles's family, I just wanted to share with you that I'm sorry for your loss. Charles seemed like a great all-around guy. One of the exhibits that was put up during the first trial, I noticed something. He and I share the same birthday. So I'll remember him on my birthday. I've seen many, many cases in my career where someone faces a long prison sentence for what amounted to one split-second bad decision. You are not that person. The amount of contemplation, calculation, planning, manipulation that went into these crimes is unparalleled in my career. Your powers of manipulation are profoundly destructive, one that undermines trust, distorts truth, and can erode the very foundations of healthy relationships and society. The impact of your manipulation has been devastating, insidious, and far-reaching, and perhaps still unknown. One can't help but wonder if Alex died as a result of the extraordinary burdens that you placed upon him. No one will ever know. You preyed on the vulnerability of those around you, JJ, Tylee, Alex, Melanie, others. And today I heard about Colby. You specialized in exploiting the empathy and goodwill of others, turning those virtues into tools of control and harm. I think that over time, as a result of being subjected to your manipulation, those people lost their sense of self and their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. In the face of such profound damage, a long prison sentence is not merely a punishment. It is a necessary affirmation that our society values justice, protection, and the sanctity of human life. It will take an act of God for you to go free. In short, you should never be released from prison.